Welcome one and all as we're back with part 2 of my greatest licensed games for the PS2 list. Because licensed games can be good if you choose the right one. For example this one, 2005's The Punisher. You wouldn't expect a game to be quite this gritty when it's coming from a Marvel product which is known for its family-friendly image. But then again, if you've seen the Netflix series or the 2004 film, The Punisher really isn't one for the family, it's more for the grown-ups. You take on the role of Frank Castle, aka The Punisher, and you have a simple mission. Take down the villains, the criminals, the scumbags, as you battle through the mafia by interrogating, punching, and doing a lot of shooting to take down all the criminals with your own form of justice, which generally results in a bullet. The gameplay is spot on. It looks really good, and they capture the essence of the character of the Punisher beautifully here. Dark, brooding, self-tortured, so he decides to take it out on everybody else. And boy, does he do a good job. Don't sleep on this one. Who here has seen the 1979 film The Warriors? Nope, me neither. But this 2005 game is based on that film and is a Rockstar product, and is arguably today more famous than the film it was based upon. It does expand on the film, with the first half covering events that took place 3 months before the film started, and it's basically a beat-em-up. You're set in a very gritty 1970s New York, and you're in a street gang called, you guessed it, The Warriors. It's beat-em-ups all the way as you and your fellow gang members battle other gangs and the police as you've been framed for a murder of a respected street gang leader. Got to prove your innocence, and you got to stay alive so you can do so. The AI for your teammates is actually quite good, especially given the fact it's a PS2 game. You have to allow for limitations of the technology of the time. It's good fun all round if you're a beat-em-up fan, or if you're looking for a Rockstar game which isn't Red Dead Redemption or Grand Theft Auto, maybe check it out. The PS2 was the last generation where Rockstar really explored different avenues, so it's worth having a look at. Now for one of my favourite survival horror games on the PlayStation 2, The Thing, made in 2002. Based on the 1982 film of the same name, it's actually set as a sequel to that film. But don't worry if you haven't seen it, because it's another one where I've not seen the attached film either, and it's still absolutely brilliant, and you can definitely have a good time. So if you don't want to watch a film from the early 80s, don't sweat it. You play as a captain in the Army Special Forces unit. You're sent to an outpost in the South Pole, and you want to find out what exactly happened to the research team there, because they've gone completely dark. But, uh-oh, you're now stuck in a fight for your life. The enemy is the titular shape-shifting alien, which makes things very tricky because you don't know who to trust. Other characters who assist in the battle against the creature in its different forms have the same problem. And John Carpenter, who made the 1982 film, liked it so much he even made a little cameo appearance in the game. The gameplay is actually pretty deep. It may look like just a third-person shooter, but it's actually really clever. You can control up to 3 other NPCs, and you give them basic commands like follow me, etc, etc. But it's all determined by the fear-trust system. It's like how it affects the mental health of you and the others around you, whether they listen to you, carry out your orders, or become a hazard to you. Very cleverly done game. If you like a bit of horror, definitely check this one out. You won't be disappointed. Family Guy, the video game. I'm going to keep this one fairly short because I gave it its own video, and I'll pop a link on the end screen if you want to check that out. You're playing as Stewie, Brian and Peter. Stewie is facing Bertram. Peter's had a bang on the head, which makes him think the whole world's out to get him and his family, so he's got to beat everybody up, even though they're not in danger at all. And Brian is in trouble because he is accused of getting Carter Pewtersmith's prize race dog Seabreeze pregnant with puppies, which she shouldn't have had. So Carter's called the police. Peter plays as a beat-em-up, Brian is more stealth in his sections, and Stewie's got all the zany gadgets which we know to love from Stewie, and he's more of a shooter. It's exactly like a episode of the TV series. The writing's on point, the voice acting's all authentic. If you like Family Guy or you just want a funny game, give it a go, because it's a riot. Scarface, The World Is Yours. One of the more famous films to have a game based upon it. The game actually changes the ending of the film to having Tony Montana survive. He escapes, barely, and returns 3 months later to find that everything's gone. All of his assets, his mansion, it's all been seized and taken away from him. So what else is there to do other than rebuild your empire and take revenge? Now, this came out at a time when there were a lot of GTA clones, all of them taking inspiration from the very successful Grand Theft Auto 3 and its sequels. But just because it's been copied doesn't mean it's been done badly. This has been done really well. I love the world that they created. It's great fun going around. And you say GTA clone, all I hear is great gameplay. So it's a plus to me. It's admittedly a real liberty with the story, but at least they've created a brand new one rather than simply trying to copy the film. And if you like gangsters, Grand Theft Auto or open world games, it's definitely one to check out. Star Trek Encounters. I might get a bit of grief for this because there were a few Star Trek games on the PS2 and none of them, including this, were reviewed that well. In fact, this one was bombed. But I had a great time with it, so I wanted to include it just in case there's any other Trek fans out there, like me, who want a game. Because I had really good fun with it. I might be looking at it through rose-coloured glasses because I like the franchise, but hey, isn't that all part of licensed games? If you like something, then you forgive it. And this lets you do the best thing possible. It lets you fly the Enterprise, and other ships actually as well. It's divided into different sections, so you've got an individual campaign with its own story and missions for each of the franchises. So here I'm in the Enterprise. There's also a bit from Star Trek Enterprise, which was a prequel to the original series. You've got Deep Space Nine, you get to control Voyager. It's all the ships. And ship combat in a Star Trek game, it shouldn't be bad, and I don't think it is. Look, if you want a Star Trek game where you get to fly around, you can pick it up and put it down. It's not particularly deep, it's not particularly long, but you get to have a bit of fun flying in space, blasting things with phasers. Why not check it out? Not the best game on this list, I will admit, but it's fun for any Star Trek fan out there. Let me know if you've played it, and if I'm talking out of my backside, or if you do agree that this is actually a good bit of fun. Also, voice acting wise, they've either got a very good impersonator or they've got William Shatner doing it, which is a little plus. And from one science fiction heavyweight franchise to another, Star Wars Starfighter. It's again space combat. I like that, in case you haven't guessed. And this one is, if I'm honest with you, a better game. It does exactly what it says on the tin. You get to control starfighters. You get to be more than one character as well, which flushes out the story, flying all sorts of different ships for space combat. Your job? Help to prevent the imminent invasion of the planet Naboo. Star Wars is one of those franchises that's got multiple games on pretty much most consoles that you can think of. I just particularly like this one. I like the space combat and the fact that some of it's in atmosphere around the planet as well. Missions pretty much involve around either protecting your friendly ships or destroying enemy ones, or a combination of both, you know. But it's just done well. I think it plays absolutely fantastically. It looks really good for a PS2 game. And yes, the story there is worthwhile. Getting to play as different characters, seeing things from a different perspective, it's done well and it's quite a clever idea. Because when it comes to this sort of game, story can get lost. But I think they did a good job. Let me know what you think in the comments. The Simpsons game. Now, when you hear The Simpsons, you're probably thinking hit and run. But I don't think this game gets enough love, and it's just as much fun, albeit a completely different style of game. Players Homer, Marge, Bart and Lisa, they've all got different abilities, there's beat 'em up elements throughout. It's just really good. It's like an extended episode of the TV programme, which is exactly what you want from something like this. I did give the game a full video. Again, there'll be a link on the end screen if you want to check it out. But just because Hit and Run's brilliant doesn't mean this can't be as well. Trust me, it is. The Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. But if you're looking for a high fantasy, deep RPG with a fantastic story, look no further. The visuals are based upon the films which came out around that time. If you haven't seen the films, don't worry about it. You don't need to have, or indeed need to have read the book. The story is self-explanatory throughout. It's a great time to be had. One of the best looking licensed games on the PS2 in my humble opinion. Definitely got the most varied environments and characters. And if you've already played this, check out the Two Towers, because that's also absolutely brilliant. RPG greatness. And that's the end of part 2. Part 3 is coming, so subscribe so you don't miss it. If I've done things correctly, you should be looking at links for the other videos I mentioned, as well as a link for part 1 as well. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Ta-da!